It's that time of year again. We're moving from 2025 to 2026, and it's that time of year that you might be setting some resolutions or setting next year's goals. And as a student athlete or as a basketball player, a lot of your goals might be around what you want 2026 to look like from a basketball perspective, or as a student, or in your personal life. It doesn't matter. But what I want to talk about today, in today's episode, is how you might reflect on last year's progress before making this year's resolutions. And I also want to share a bit of what's coming for this channel and an exciting announcement about 2026. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Heart Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. Quick episode today. We're talking about New Year's. We're talking about resolutions. We're talking about goals. And I just had a few tips, first of all, on, reflecting on 2025 while we look forward to 2026, because you as a student athlete probably have a number of areas that you are setting future goals. It could be around basketball, okay? And it might be some of the same goals you set last year. Maybe you didn't accomplish all the goals you had last year. If you were with me last year, you probably saw my New Year's episode there where I talked about my goals for this channel. I didn't meet them all, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna beat myself up. So I want you to reflect back on what you accomplished, the positives of what you set forth to do in 2025, and really celebrate what you accomplished, okay? And then I want you to look at maybe what you didn't accomplish, because you can take those goals forward in 2026. And maybe you set some goals that you didn't have complete control over. So the first tip is I want you to set goals for 2026 or resolutions for 2026 that you can control. You cannot control your playing time. You cannot control getting recruited to a certain school. You cannot control those types of things, but you can control the inputs that you put into it. You can control how much time you spend working on your game, what you do to work on your game. Maybe it's improving your shooting. Maybe it's improving your ball handling. Maybe it's improving your basketball IQ. Okay? You can improve with inputs. So make sure when you're setting your 2026 goals, yes, you've reflected, you're setting 2026 goals, make sure you are setting goals that you can control. The second thing is I talked about reflecting on what you didn't accomplish. I don't want you beating yourself up, but I do want you recognizing maybe what didn't get done in 2025 that you had goals, okay? Because this is the second tip I've got for your future resolutions, for your future goals. You, as a student athlete, can be your biggest critic. I didn't get this done, I didn't spend enough time, whatever the case might be, okay? As long as you're also your own biggest fan. Look at what I did do. I improved my free throw shooting by, X percentage. I, spent more time in study hall, working on my studies, my grades I brought up. Maybe I didn't get to that point I wanted, but I made progress, right? I'm going to continue that progress. So just remember that as you look forward to 2026, you can be your own biggest critic as long as you're also your own biggest fan, okay? And then the third thing is, as you set goals, as you set resolutions going into 2026, while you didn't accomplish maybe some of your 2025 goals, I don't want you just doing an instant replay. I'm just going to do the same stuff. You can incorporate some of the things you didn't accomplish, but I want you to get another goal, an exciting goal. Maybe it's multiple goals, okay? And maybe it's in multiple categories. Like I said, it could be sports related, school related, family related, personal related, whatever the case might be. Okay? So those are your 3 tips for setting goals, resolutions in 2026. First of all, reflect on what 2025, the positives and the negatives, and be a critic where you can, but be your biggest fan. Concentrate on the positives, okay? What did you celebrate? Celebrate those wins, okay? I don't want you to just do an instant replay of 2025's goals. Set some exciting goals going forward. And then in these goals, make them things that you can control. Don't set goals that, there's inputs like playing time, for instance, that you don't make those decisions. And so, you can't set concrete goals. You can set the inputs that go into playing time. The last thing I want to share with you is how this channel did. Because if you were with me last year, I set some goals, some resolutions, if you will, at the new year of bringing you a training for helping you improve your shot selection. I didn't get that training done. I made progress on it. So again, my biggest critic, but also my biggest fan, right? I can see I've got some work to do. That's going to move forward in 2026. So just so you know, if you've been sitting there waiting, going, oh, where's that training on improving at shot selection? It's coming. It's just delayed, okay? But what did I accomplish? We went over 100 episodes. That was a big accomplishment. I celebrated that win. We've run 2 years straight of weekly content. That's a big win. Celebrate that win, okay? What's coming? What's my exciting thing that's coming? Well, this might apply to some of you, might not apply to all of you, but if you're a student athlete at the high school level, this is going to be really exciting. So next year, this channel is going to stick around, but I plan to launch a second YouTube channel, okay? A second podcast. And that podcast is going to be designed to help student athletes and their families navigate the college application, the college selection process, and the recruiting process. Because there's a lot that goes into, if you're a student athlete, especially if you're not a highly recruited student athlete, there's a lot that goes into finding the right college for yourself, in applying to those colleges and making sure that you are going through the process in a timely and correct fashion and giving yourself the best opportunity to get into those schools that are on your list. And alongside that, navigating kind of like this recruiting timeline where you might need to be reaching out to college coaches, where you need to be getting your name and your skill set in front of them. So the channel is going to be designed for that, and hopefully that's going to be helpful. And as that comes out, I'll give you, the link, the address, the name, all that, so that you can subscribe to that. So that's my exciting 2026 announcement. So it's going to be a busy year for me. I'm sure it's going to be a busy year for you. And I guess I will see you next year. And until that next episode, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.